There's a curious paradox that most people spend a lifetime discovering. You need to walk alone before you can truly walk accompanied. Have you felt it? That moment when the house is silent, maybe around 3 a.m., and you find yourself questioning, not the superficial questions about what to wear tomorrow or what to grab for dinner. The real questions, the ones that cut deep. Why do I feel so alone, even surrounded by people? Why does it seem like I'm acting out a role I never chose? Why does the love I'm searching for always slip through my fingers? And then comes that statement, that strange truth that challenges everything you were taught. You need to be alone before you can truly be with someone. Wait, what do you mean? Didn't society teach us exactly the opposite? That we need to find our soulmate, that happiness lies in another person, that loneliness is a state to be avoided at all costs. And now I'm told I need to seek exactly what I was programmed to feel. Yes, and by the end of this video, you'll understand not only why this solitude is necessary, but how it transforms into the bridge to the kind of love you're really seeking. The one that doesn't run away, the one that doesn't need to be chased, the one that simply is. Here's why. Imagine for a moment a man, let's call him David. David spent his whole life doing what was expected of him. He smiled at the right parties, said the right words, kept the right friendships. He was good at it. Everyone said he was sociable, charismatic, successful, and indeed he was in the eyes of the world. But something began to change. Not suddenly, like a lightning bolt. It was more like a hairline fracture spreading through glass, first barely noticeable, then impossible to ignore. David began to notice that conversations always circled back to the same things. Status, gossip, complaints. Nobody talked about what they really felt. Nobody questioned. Nobody went deep. And the more he noticed this, the less he could pretend to be interested. He didn't become bitter or superior. He simply stopped pretending. And you know what happened? The friendships began to disappear. Not from conflict, not from fights, but because the foundation on which they were built no longer existed. He was no longer willing to sustain that performance. This is what Alan Watts called ceasing to seek, a concept the philosopher spent his life translating from Eastern wisdom into Western understanding. His insight was revolutionary and deeply resisted. The more you seek love, connection, and happiness outside yourself, the more these things elude you. Think of a river. The river doesn't try to flow, it simply flows. It doesn't struggle to be a river, it is. And the water doesn't cling to the banks or resist the current. It moves naturally, effortlessly, without desperation. Now imagine trying to capture the water of that river with your hands. The more force you apply, the more you clench your fingers, the more the water escapes. But if you simply place your open hands beneath the surface, the water comes to you, naturally, without effort. It's exactly the same with love, with connection, with peace. The act of seeking presupposes that something is missing, that you are incomplete, that you need someone or something external to fill a void. And while you operate from that belief that you are incomplete, you transmit it. You look in others for what you can only find in yourself. But then comes the question that's probably echoing through your mind right now. If seeking prevents finding, what exactly does an awakened person do? What happens when you stop searching? Is there a way beyond the endless quest? There is. And it begins with something you were probably taught to avoid. But before we get there, we need to clarify something crucial. When we talk about awakened people, we're not talking about enlightened monks living atop mountains without emotions or desires. We're not talking about perfection. We're talking about consciousness, about perception, about waking up to the automatic patterns that govern your life without you noticing. An awakened person is not someone who transcended humanity. It's someone who finally became truly human, someone who stopped acting and started being. And the first step on that journey, the first movement in that awakening, is always the same: solitude. Not the bitter solitude of rejection, not the isolation born from fear, but deliberate chosen solitude. The space between who you used to be and who you're becoming. Think of a mirror. When was the last time you truly saw yourself in a mirror? Not a quick glance to check your hair or if your clothes look good, but a real look, deep, straight into your own eyes. It's uncomfortable, isn't it? Because in the mirror, there's nowhere to run. There are no distractions, no excuses, no masks. It's just you and you. Solitude works the same way. It is a mirror, not a void. When you're constantly surrounded by people, noise, and external stimuli, you never need to confront who you really are. You can remain on autopilot, merely reacting and adjusting to what others expect of you. But when you're alone, truly alone, there's no one left to act for. And that's where the magic happens, or the terror, depending on how honest you're willing to be. Because what most people discover in solitude is this: they don't know who they are. They've spent so much time being what others expected that they've lost touch with what they really feel, desire, believe. You were probably conditioned from childhood to seek external approval, to be good, nice, pleasant, to not make waves, to fit in. And over time, this conditioning became so automatic that you don't even notice it anymore. You simply act, react, perform, and then someone comes along and says, "You are enough. You always were enough." And the first reaction is disbelief. Because if you're enough, why do you feel so empty? If you're complete, why do you seek so much outside yourself? The answer is simple and brutal: because you were programmed to seek. Because society, culture, the media, they all taught you that happiness, love, fulfillment are always somewhere out there. In the next job, in the next relationship, in the next achievement. But the truth is that you are fragmented. Not because you were born incomplete, but because you were taught to divide yourself. One part of you wants this, another part wants that. One voice says, "Be free," another says, "Be safe." One whispers, "Take a risk." Another screams, "Protect yourself." And in the midst of this internal chaos, you get lost. You become a patchwork of other people's expectations, of conditioned desires, of inherited fears. Solitude is the space where you can begin to untangle this knot, where you can finally hear your own voice beneath all the noise. Is it uncomfortable? Yes. Is it scary? It can be. Because confronting yourself means confronting all the lies you've told, all the roles you've played, all the versions of yourself you constructed to please others. But it's also liberating, because on the other side of this confrontation lies something you may have never experienced: authenticity. Not the performative authenticity of social media, not the authenticity carefully calculated by those who want to seem genuine, but the true authenticity that comes from knowing yourself so deeply that you don't need to pretend to anyone anymore, not even to yourself. And this is where the journey gets interesting. Because when you stop seeking approval, when you stop trying to fill a void with external things, something extraordinary happens. You begin to feel whole, not because you found all the answers, not because you solved all the problems, but because you stopped treating yourself as an unfinished project that needs fixing. You allow yourself to simply be. And in this state of being, without seeking, without grasping, without desperation, you become magnetically attractive. Not because you're trying to attract, but because you are complete. And completeness has a pull, a gravity of its own. Awakened people don't pursue love. They are love, not in the romantic, sugary sense that media sells, but in the sense that they operate from a place of fullness, not scarcity. And fullness attracts. It always has. It always will. But we've come to a crucial point now. You understood the paradox. You understood why you need to walk alone first. You understood that seeking prevents finding. But now what? What comes next? What happens when you really turn inward? When you let the mask fall? When you stop performing? What happens in the silence between who you were and who you're becoming? They turn inward, not with effort, but with curiosity. And this is exactly where true transformation begins. So what do awakened souls do when they walk alone? The answer might surprise you. They don't do. They allow. They allow silence to find them. They allow solitude to reveal what was always there, hidden beneath layers of social performance and accepted masks. It's not an effort, it's a surrender. You see, you were taught to work on yourself as if you were a project that needs fixing. But what if there's nothing to fix? What if solitude isn't about improving who you are, but simply about knowing who you already are? This is the first paradox of the journey. The more you try to be natural, the more artificial you become. The more you struggle to find peace, the more agitated you get. Philosopher Alan Watts called this the self-improvement trap, the idea that a better version of you is waiting in the future if you just try hard enough. But awakened souls know a different truth. They don't find themselves in solitude. They meet themselves in it. So what does solitude reveal? Clarity. Think of winter in New England. When trees lose their leaves, it's not death, it's introspection. Nature withdraws, not because it's weak, but because it needs to rest, to reorganize, to prepare for the next season. Winter is not the end of nature, it's its deep breath. Your solitude is the same. It's not absence, it's pure presence. When you're alone, truly alone, the noise of others' expectations begins to fade. And finally, perhaps for the first time, you hear your own voice, not the voice you learned to imitate, not the voice that performs for approval, but that quiet, steady voice that always knew who you really are. This is the voice that the crowd suffocates. Now, here's where most people deceive themselves. They think solitude is about doing something, meditating for hours, keeping journals, following some rigorous spiritual practice. But that's still effort, still striving for control. Watts taught us this through a simple metaphor. Imagine trying to force a flower to bloom. You can pull the petals, you can overwater it, you can push it into sunlight with desperation, but all you'll do is destroy it. A flower doesn't bloom because it's forced. It blooms because the conditions are right. Solitude offers the conditions. You don't force authenticity. You remove the obstacles that suffocate it, the opinions, the expectations, the fear of judgment. And then, naturally, who you really are begins to emerge. It's not dramatic. It's not sudden enlightenment. It's just naturalness. But there's something more that solitude reveals. Something most people are afraid to face. Your shadow. In the company of others, you can avoid the parts of yourself you don't like. You can distract yourself with endless conversations, superficial validation, endless tasks. You can build an entire identity based on who others need you to be. But in solitude, there's nowhere to run. Every insecurity, every fear, every rejected fragment of yourself waits for you in the silence. The anger you've always swallowed, the sadness you've always pushed away, the vulnerability you've always hidden behind performative strength. All of them emerge, not to destroy you, but to finally be seen. And here's the journey. Your shadow is not your enemy. It's the part of you that waits for recognition. Think of your literal shadow, the one that forms when you block the light. You can't run from it. The more you run, the more it follows you. But when you turn around and face it, you realize it was never something separate from you. It was just you, seen from a different angle. The same happens with your inner shadow. The anger you hide, the sadness you bury, the need you deny. They don't disappear when you ignore them. They grow stronger in the darkness. But in solitude, when you finally stop running and allow yourself to feel, something shifts. You realize I'm not just the parts I present to the world. I am whole. I am light and shadow, clarity and confusion, strength and vulnerability. And all of it is valid. This is the moment when solitude transforms from isolation into integrity. You're not alone because nobody wants you. You're alone because you're becoming complete. And when you become complete, when you accept every part of yourself without judgment, when you embrace both the light and the shadow, something remarkable happens. You stop searching. You don't consciously decide to stop. You don't make it another self-improvement project. You simply lose interest in filling a void you realize never existed. And when you stop searching, you become attractive. This is the paradox most people never understand. Society taught you that you need to try, to impress, to perform, to become worthy of love. But all that performance doesn't make you attractive. It makes you needy. And neediness repels. Wholeness attracts. Think about it. When you enter a room looking for validation, waiting to be noticed, adjusting your energy to fit in, scanning faces for approval, people feel it. They may not name it consciously, but they feel your emptiness, your hunger to fill a void. But when you enter a room whole, comfortable in your own energy, needing nothing from anyone, the dynamic shifts completely. You become a mirror. And when your mirror is clean, without the fog of neediness, without the distortions of fear, others see their own reflection in your presence. You're not projecting neediness. You're not transmitting lack. You're simply being. And that being invites authenticity in return. This doesn't mean you become cold or distant. It doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you become genuine. It means your connections come from choice, not from lack. Two whole beings can choose to be together. Two halves seek each other to become whole. Can you feel the difference? In one, there's freedom. In the other, there's imprisonment. In one, there's love. In the other, there's transaction. And the more time you spend in solitude, the more deeply you know yourself, the clearer this distinction becomes. You stop tolerating relationships that require you to wear a mask. You stop compromising with connections that drain your energy. You stop accepting scraps of attention as if they were feasts of love. Not out of arrogance, but out of recognition. You know who you are now. You know your value, not the value the world assigns you, but the inherent value you've always possessed. And that's too precious to sacrifice for temporary approval or superficial comfort. But what about love? You walked alone. You found yourself. You became whole. But love, that thing all the songs sing about, all the movies portray, that society promises as the ultimate experience. What if I told you that love is not what you thought it was? What if I told you that when two awakened souls meet, something completely different happens? Something most people will never experience because they're still looking outward for what can only be discovered within. What happens when two complete beings choose to walk together? So what is love when you're no longer searching? The answer is not what the world taught you. For years, you heard that love completes, that love fills, that love is the solution to loneliness. But all those definitions carry an invisible premise. You are incomplete. You need something external to become whole. What if that premise is false? What if true love is not about finding your other half, but about two complete beings who choose to walk together? When two awakened souls meet, something extraordinary happens. It's not the union of two broken halves searching for wholeness. It's the resonance of two totalities recognizing one another. Imagine two rivers flowing side by side, like the Colorado and the Green River meeting in Canyonlands, each with its own current, its own direction, its own strength. They don't merge into one. They maintain their individual identity while creating natural harmony. The music that arises doesn't come from one river consuming the other, but from both maintaining their flow while sharing the valley. This is love when you're not searching for it. It's not necessity. It's choice. It's not possession. It's appreciation. It's not fear of solitude. It's celebration of two solitudes that found each other. But why is this so rare? Because most people don't seek love from wholeness. They seek it from lack. They look for someone to fill the void, to validate their existence, to prove they are worthy of being loved. And when you seek from lack, you attract relationships built on fragile foundations. You perform, you negotiate, you reshape yourself to be accepted. And in the process, you lose exactly what would make love authentic, yourself. Awakened souls recognize this. They recognize the difference between need and choice, between dependency and interdependence, between mask and authenticity. When a being who walked alone, who knew their own company, who made peace with their inner silence, meets another who took the same journey, there is no performance. There are no games. There is no exhaustion of trying to be enough for the other. There is only presence, recognition, resonance. It's like when the mirror you polished in solitude finally reflects another mirror equally clear. You don't see distortions. You see truth. And the quality of this connection is fundamentally different. There's no constant anxiety about whether you're adequate or whether they'll leave. There's no need to control, to possess, to guarantee. There is trust, not in the other, but in the natural process of life. And here is the final wisdom of Alan Watts on this. You cannot force authentic love. You cannot manipulate it into existence. You cannot control it to happen. You can only create the conditions, and the condition is your own wholeness. Watts said, "Nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. The tree doesn't force its fruit to ripen. The river doesn't force its way through stones. They simply flow according to their nature, and everything unfolds in its right time." The same is true for authentic love. You cannot rush it. You cannot hunt it. You can only become the type of person who naturally resonates with this kind of connection. And this means knowing yourself, becoming whole with yourself, making peace with your solitude. When you do this, when you genuinely walk your path, alone, not out of fear of connection, but out of respect for your own journey, something shifts. You stop scanning environments looking for validation. You stop measuring your worth by the attention you receive. You stop reshaping yourself to be accepted. You simply are. And in this state of being, in this authentic presence, you naturally attract others who have also arrived at this place. Because you recognize each other, not with words, not with elaborate performances, but with a knowing that comes from having looked into the same abyss and emerged whole. Now here is the complete paradox resolved. Walking alone doesn't lead to perpetual loneliness. It leads to wholeness. And wholeness doesn't repel love. It attracts the kind of love worth having. A love that doesn't diminish you, but expands you. A love that doesn't bind you, but sets you free. A love that doesn't complete you, because you're already complete, but resonates with your completeness. You must know yourself before you can truly know another. You must be comfortable in your own company before you can offer genuine companionship. You must love your solitude before you can share your space without losing yourself. This is not a technique. It's not a strategy to get a relationship. It's a way of being that fundamentally transforms how you relate to everything. And when you live from this place, when your solitude becomes not a problem to be solved, but a gift to be received, everything changes. You stop seeing time alone as empty and recognize it as cultivation. You stop viewing the absence of relationship as failure and welcome it as space for growth. You stop seeing your solitary journey as punishment and embrace it as preparation. Preparation for what? For the kind of love you didn't know was possible. The kind of connection that can only exist between two beings who don't need each other but choose each other. Repeatedly, consciously, freely. Remember the seed metaphor we used at the beginning. The seed in darkness is not buried, it's planted, it's germinating, it's preparing to emerge. Your solitude is that darkness. It's not the end, it's the beginning. It's not punishment, it's process. It's not evidence that something is wrong with you. It's evidence that something is becoming right. And when you're ready, when you've done the silent work of knowing yourself, of making peace with yourself, of becoming whole with yourself, you will emerge, not as someone desperately searching for light, but as someone who became their own light. And those who resonate with your frequency, those who took their own journey through the darkness, they will find you, not because you sought them, not because you hunted them, but because lights recognize lights. And when that happens, you will understand why you had to walk alone first. Because only by having known deep solitude can you truly appreciate authentic companionship. Only by having made peace with yourself can you offer peace to another. Only by having become whole can you choose to share your wholeness without fear of losing it. This is what awakened souls know. This is why they walk alone before they walk together. Not because they hate connection, but because they respect true connection too much to offer it from a place of lack. But where does that leave you now? Perhaps you are walking alone. Perhaps you feel as if you are in the darkness, like that seed waiting, wondering if something is wrong with you because others seem to find connection so easily. Nothing is wrong with you. You are simply in a different process. You are cultivating something deeper. You are becoming someone capable of true love, not just superficial connection. And that takes time. It takes solitude. It takes the courage to stay with yourself when everything in you wants to escape to hollow comfort attention that doesn't truly feed your soul. But it's worth it, because on the other side of that journey is not just love, it is freedom. The freedom to be yourself without masks. The freedom to connect without losing your essence. The freedom to love without fear of abandonment, because you know that no matter what happens, you have yourself. And that quiet peace with yourself is the true prize. The love that may come after is just the cherry on top, beautiful, wonderful, but not necessary for your wholeness. You are already whole. Walk your path with quiet confidence, not with arrogance, not with contempt for others, but with the deep knowledge that you are exactly where you need to be. And when the right time comes, when you have made the journey that only you can make, love will find you. Not because you became perfect, but because you became real. And reality recognizes reality. Until then, appreciate the journey. Appreciate the solitude. Appreciate the silence that allows you to hear your own voice for the first time. It's in that silence that you become who you truly are. And it's by being who you truly are that you attract those who can love you for exactly who you are. Not for a performative version, not for a carefully constructed mask, but for the authentic, imperfect whole you that emerged from the darkness as your own light. If this resonates with you, if these words touch something true within you, share it with someone who is walking alone. Someone who needs to hear that their solitude is not a problem. It's a gift. And if you want to explore more of this philosophical wisdom, more of these truths that the world forgot to teach, there is so much more waiting for you here on the channel. But for now, remember this: you are whole. Love will find you when you have found yourself. And until then, every step you take alone is a step toward the wholeness that makes true love possible. Until next time, walk in peace. The quiet mind knows